When I'm sitting in meditation, you could say that I'm experiencing myself as a little bundle of stuff. So let's talk for a minute about the main aspects of that little bundle. First of all, there's the body here. There's a body here. And I keep talking about, I keep coming back to the sitting. When you do that, there is part of the awareness of just being in this present moment here, sitting here, is of this body. Then you could say that there is consciousness itself. But there isn't really consciousness unless there is something one is conscious of. So what are the main things that one is conscious of? Well, I've mentioned the body. Then you could say that there's thought. Let's throw perception in with thought here. Thought and perception. Thought might be what I'm planning. It might be a memory. It might be a particular insight. It might be something I'm wondering about that's a particular insight, or there may not be a particular insight. In other words, you can throw understanding in there too, at least for the time being. These are all thoughts. Might be thinking of someone I love. Might be thinking of someone I don't like so much. I might be thinking, how soon can I get up out of here and go do something that's less difficult? So, thoughts. Perceptions. My ears are functioning here. I'm hearing things. I may have some incense going. I may catch a whiff of the incense. My eyes are functioning. Changes in the light. Shadow. If I'm sitting looking at the wall, which is a normal way in which we practice, there's the wall, whatever color it is, whatever forms are on it. That's all there. Thought and perception. Then there's feeling. Perhaps there's a feeling of fear. Perhaps there's a feeling of joy. Perhaps there's a feeling of sadness. Perhaps there's a feeling of pain in some part of my body. Perhaps there's just a kind of dull, spiritual aching pain. Perhaps I feel very physically comfortable. Perhaps there's a feeling of peace. That's all feeling. Emotion, physical feeling, pleasure and pain, that's all feeling. Then there's the fact that in each moment that I'm sitting here, I'm making little choices. I can choose to go down the road with some of those thoughts. I can choose to keep working it quietly, staying here in the present moment. I can choose to focus on something that my ears are picking up on. I can choose to focus on something that my eyes are picking up on. Where I'm directing my attention is a matter of my choice. I can choose to just fog out and let it all drift. That's a choice too. From moment to moment, I'm making choices. So here's a little bundle. with five aspects. The physical body, consciousness itself, and consciousness is always qualified by something. Consciousness is always consciousness of. So you have consciousness, but then you have the three ways in which consciousness is qualified. Thought and perception, feeling, and choice, volition. In Buddhism, these five aspects are called the five skandhas. And this means basically an aggregation or bundle that I can identify. Just in my sitting meditation, I can identify these aspects of my human experience. And in each moment of my conscious experience, all five aspects are present. The first aspect is body aspect. The other four, consciousness, thought and perception, feeling, and volition, those are mind aspect. Body and mind. So here I am, sitting here, doing my meditation, a bundle of stuff. I'm a bundle of stuff sitting here. So here's something else about these bundles. They're all impermanent. They're all transitory. They flash from moment to moment in different manifestations. The body is never quite the same from one moment to the next, from one day to the next, from 1 year to the next, and so on. My thoughts are constantly changing. My perceptions are constantly changing. My feelings are constantly changing. The choices I'm making are constantly changing. And all of these are qualifying aspects of constantly changing consciousness, states of consciousness. It's all constantly changing. So here's a question. Is there anything else to me other than this bundle of constantly changing stuff? Is that all I am? Remember that Buddhism is based not in theory, but in experience. The thing that I'm talking about here, you can test for yourself. See what else you can find when you sit down and look at a wall. See what else is there. Let's go back to the body for a moment. We all know that thinking has to do with an organ of the body, the brain. In our body, the place where we experience thinking, this maybe seem like a little strange way of speaking of it, but in our body, the place where we experience thinking is our head. I remember when I was trying to learn algebra when I was a boy, the first little period in which I was trying to learn algebra was very difficult and frustrating for me. There was something about these symbols and the way in which they were being used that I simply could not initially get a handle on. And when I think back on that period, what I think about is the strain in my poor little head at the time. I was trying to figure it out. And whenever you try to figure something out, where do you mostly experience it? In the head. Well, here's another interesting fact, that when you experience deep emotion, powerful emotion, the place where you tend to experience it most powerfully or strongly, where it tends to kind of focus in the body, is in the chest. Have you ever had a really good cry? Coming right out of your lungs. We speak of the heartbreak of disappointed romantic longings. And it really is actually experienced in the heart. In the area of the heart, that sadness. We speak of emotions welling up. It's like coming right out of the bowels and up into the chest. Head, thought, chest, emotion. Then there's the hara. The hara. When I meditate, how can I characterize the hara in terms of my actual experience? This is something people have to find for themselves, but I'll tell you how I characterize the hara, how I experience the hara. I experience the hara as a kind of well or pool of stillness. That doesn't mean I never experience any tensions there or any pains there. But even when there are tensions or pains there, there's another level, as it were, when I'm meditating, at which I'm experiencing the hara. And this is not just a physical level, it's a spiritual level. I'm experiencing something there that is like a great well of stillness, a kind of great reservoir of something profoundly peaceful. Now, whether I experience that as a casual feeling of peacefulness varies. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't so much. Yet I've come to know that this is a spiritual place that I experience as centering in my body in the hara somehow. Somehow I experience it that way. This is a spiritual place that I can always return to. I've often spoken in these talks about the wandering thoughts, getting hijacked by a thought, going down the road with the thoughts, and then coming back. Here's a way to describe what one is coming back to. A well of stillness. This meditation is called serene reflection, shikantaza in Japanese. This term serene reflection can also be rendered as peaceful brightness. Serene, peaceful, still. Reflection, think of the quality of reflection like not just mental reflection, but light reflected in still water. Peaceful brightness, bright stillness. When I'm returning to something real. Something that's not only part of me, but something that's actually more real than those skandhas I've described. Something is experienced, as it were, through the lens of those skandhas. But that whenever I return to it and spend a little time contentedly there, I experience it as being something much greater than myself. Not something that belongs to me, but something that I belong to. In Buddhism, we call this no self. But in one of the great scriptures of Buddhism, it's explained that to truly penetrate the teaching of no self is to realize the true self, capital T, capital S. The non-egocentric true self. The self that is in reality the oneness that underlies all existence. In the next of these talks, I'll speak a little bit more about some of the aspects of this true self.